welcome to this edition of the HIV Prevention Tracker tutorials. For this particular session, we are going to be doing data extraction for aggregate data from the system. And let me log into the system using one of the training accounts. So the first thing that you'll see after logging is the cache cleaner, and here we clear all temporary memory from the system. What this helps us to do is that it clears whatever is stored in the system, and it allows us to fetch the most updated data from the system or from the server for this case. So if you don't clear cache, it means that you might be getting data from your temporary or local storage as opposed to fetching data directly from the server. So this provides you with the most updated content from the server, like I said before. Okay, so after this, what I'm going to do is now in the top right corner right here is where I'll access my applications. So what I'll click on is Data Visualizer, which is our interest for this particular session. So I'll open it, and this is the interface for the visualizer. So this gives you aggregate data, like I said before. And if you need to look at a line list, then you have to use another application, but this only fetches aggregate data from the system. So what we're going to do is first of all define how our data is extracted from the system. By default, it will be pivot table. So if you notice from the previous versions, we had pivot table as an independent application, but now with the new changes, it has been embedded under data visualizer. So if you're looking for pivot tables, you have to go to data visualizer, and it gives you access to other charts that you can actually also display your data as you can see. We have column charts, we have stacked bars, we have pie charts, and we have the rest of these other charts that you might be able to utilize for your data extraction. So you must make sure that you understand what each chart means before you actually extract your data. You don't just extract data from the system because maybe chart looks fancy, but what you do is first understand what a chart actually means before you use it for data extraction. For this particular example, we are going to start with pivot tables because for it can give you aggregate data in terms of rows and columns. So we shall start with this and then define our main dimensions. As you can see in the left pane, this is where we define our data. Then this other section where our data will be displayed. So what we shall start with is by defining the main dimensions, and those are three. And by these are defined by the three W's, which is the what, the when, and the where. The what is defined under data, the when is defined under period, and the where is under organization units. So we are going to start by extracting our data, and I'll click on data, and once I click on it, it will give me a pop-up window. So this window will help me define what I need from the system. So what we've configured at the moment is that you can extract data by program indicator. As you click on data type, it will give you a couple of options. We have indicators, data elements, data sets, and the rest. But our interest here is program indicators, not indicators or anything else for this particular application, because these are the indicators that we've actually configured to fetch data from the system correctly. So what you do is click on program indicators, and then after that you click on the program and define which program you need your data to come from, which is by default HIV Prevention Tracker at the moment. So what I'll do, because the items are so many, I can't scroll through all of them to get what I need. I'll use this search option to look for what I want. So you can type any indicator of interest that you might want to fetch from the system. It can be a cascade, it can be just independent indicators, or anything that you might need to get from the system, but there must be indicators like I said earlier. So for this particular session, I'll just maybe fetch out prep new, and it will list whichever indicator has that particular name in it. So you can see that we have the general indicator here and the disaggregates also listed. So if you need the disaggregates, you can add them as well. You can see it's broken down into a couple of options, but for this particular session, just for the interest of time, we shall just go with prep new. And I'll double click on it to select it, or you can just click once, then use the arrow buttons to push it to the side of selected items. So whatever appears under selected items is what will be fetched from the system. If it's not on the selected items section or side, it won't be fetched. So to unselect or remove it from the side of selected, if at all it was an error, or you didn't want, or you don't want to fetch this actual item or data or program indicator, you can just double click on it again or click on it once and use these arrow buttons to push it to the side that is opposite, like that. So once you're done, because we are still defining our data, we don't click on update. Once you click on update, it will try to fetch data from the system. But what you do at the moment is that if you're not ready to fetch data and to save on the resources for the system, you click on hide and then define the other dimensions. So now that we've defined our data, what I'll now go to is the period. And remember, as you're selecting or clicking on these particular dimensions, there are a couple of options. When you click on the name itself, it will give you further filters. But these three dots on the side, let me first zoom in a bit. The three dots on the right side here give you options to move that particular dimension to the columns filter or move to the filter itself. So what this does is that by default, when you click on it, it will go to the rows, but you might want to actually push this to the columns. As you can see on this other side, we have columns, we have the rows, and then we have the filters. So the filters will just filter your data, but they won't display in terms of your table extract or whichever tool you use for displaying your data. But the columns and rows actually display your data. So at the moment, it means that in my columns, I'll have the data, and in my rows, I'll have the period. So if you want to switch these around, you can just drag and drop. As an example, if I wanted my periods to be in the filter so that they don't display in my data, I'll just drag period out of here and drop it in filters, then bring org units to the side of rows so that it appears under rows. So what this will do is just show you all the org units that you have attached to or attachments to, and their data as columns. So for now, when you use these three dots, they can just direct you to where you want to drop your dimension at. So for now, when you click on the name, it will give you further filters, like I said, and it will give you this pop-up window. So by default, it will select last quarter, and if you're not interested in last quarter as a default selection, you can still do the same logic by clicking once and using the arrow button to push it away, or whichever period you're interested in, you just double click on it to bring it to the side of selected. So right now it means that it's going to fetch data for the last 3 months. What I'll do now is hide again because I haven't finalized with my data definitions. Then I'll go to org units. So I'll click on org units, and here I'll define where my data is going to come from. By default, it will select user org units because it will just fetch out all the org units that are attached to your account. But if you don't want all the org units for your account, you can just uncheck this and then select the specific facility that you're interested in. If you want multiple facilities, you just make sure that this check button has a tick. So if you want multiple facilities, you can just go down to whichever district or region, go down to the last level and select the other facility or facilities by putting a tick or a check on it. And you can also select the higher hierarchies. By this I mean that if you wanted to fetch data for the entire sub-county, you click on sub-county and it will be checked up here. As you can see, if you want the entire region, the same thing, you click on the region and it will be checked. So for this particular interest, we are going to select the facilities, which is HIS and test facility. So once you're done, you can also choose to just update so that you can have the data fetched. But before I do that, again, I might decide that in case maybe I have like higher hierarchies onto my account, I can decide to uncheck everything first of all, and I say that maybe for this entire region, okay, that's if at all I have like multiple facilities to my account, but I don't want to go facility by facility if there are too many, just to save on the time. What I'll do is just select the highest hierarchy, and then under here where they select level, I'll say that give me all the health facilities that are under MakSPH region. So what the system will do is that it will look at MakSPH region and give you all the health facilities that are listed under there. So right now I'll just stop at that and then click on update, since I've fetched all the 3 W's, which is the what, the when, and the where. So what I'll do is click on update, and the system should be able to give me this data. So as it fetches the data, you can see that now the space is blank and it's trying to look for all this information that I've defined within these particular dimensions. So we give it a few seconds to see if it loads, and right there is what we have. So we only added prep new. So if I told you we want to add more indicators, because just this one indicator might not make sense or communicate to what you need, what you do is go back to your data right here and add more indicators. So if you click on the 3 dots, like I said, it will give you a small menu about that particular dimension. Like here, if you click on this, it will ask you if you want to remove it, move it to the rows, or add more categories. So what I'll do here is click on the name, because I just want to add more indicators. Is I'll click on the name and add more indicators to this. So what I'll do is click on maybe prep city, and then double click on it to select and add more. Like if I wanted to look at maybe KP Prev, if it makes sense for your data, just type KP Prev, and then you can look it up from the system. So we have KP Prev defined under here, and you can see that this is an indicator and this is a program indicator. So like we said earlier, because I haven't filtered out the data type, it will give me all indicators and program indicators, but what we need is the program indicator. So if it's an indicator, it might give you issues because we haven't really fully configured the indicators. So what you do is make sure that you have them as program indicators, and to make it easy to just avoid the confusion, you come to data type and make sure that you've selected program indicators so that it's a bit more specific. So now that we only have program indicators, I'll select this one here by double clicking, and now we have 3. So you can add as many as you wish, but remember that the more indicators you add, the more time might be spent on fetching the data or results from the system, because it will have to use more time to calculate those particular extractions. So right now I'll click on update so that I have more data displayed on my list. As you can see, we have some data listed here, but because I'm using a dummy account which has demo data, this data is not really so realistic, so the numbers might not really tally because we just use it for training purposes, and this data is not actual data, so the numbers are not really tallying as it might be in the real world. So right now this is our extraction. So what we can choose to do is now have this data further manipulated as an extraction, and what we can do now is maybe go to file if you want to save it as an example, because it might take you time to extract this data, and if you don't want to do this every time you're fetching a particular report or answering a particular query, like if it's a monthly report or quarterly and don't want to do it every time this data call comes up, what you do is come to file and save it. Okay, so when you save, you give it a name that communicates your data. I can call it maybe prep performance as an example. So it's very important that you give it a name that actually makes sense to your data, so that when you come back the next week, next year, or whichever period in the future, you can easily remember by just looking at the title of your extract. And so the description part of it is where you put the details of what your data is about, so that when you're sharing this extract with someone else, they can easily read about the description and understand what the data is about. So it's important that you define entirely what your data is about to make it easy for the next person or even yourself, because you might come back in the future and you've actually forgotten what you extracted before. So this is very important as well. So right now I'll just choose to save for the matter of saving time. And once you save it, will give it the title that you've named your extract, as you can see here. So right now we have our data, and if I go back to file, you can see that other options are available. Before you could only save, but now you can do save as, you can rename, and we can share this data. So the difference between save and save as is that save is for the first time when you've just extracted your data, but save as is if you want to make a copy of the original saved file. Okay, so when you do save as, it will create a duplicate and give it a new name. As you can see, when you click on this, it will automatically give it a copy on top of its name to show you that it's making a copy of the original file. So I'll cancel this because I don't want to save it again. And then the share option gives you an option for you to be able to share this particular extract with your colleagues or other users of the tracker. As an example, if I wanted to share this with someone else, it's important for you to use the username, but not just the name or their first name or last name. So if you know the username, it's a bit more specific and it will just go straight to that particular user. Because you have thousands of users in the system, it's better for you to just use their username, which is unique, as opposed to their first name or last name. So for this particular one, I just share it with KP Training 4. And you see that it has automatically taken me directly to that particular user. So I'll click on it, and then under access level, I'll choose to share with view only or view and edit. So view only gives the other user only access to read your fetched data, but they can't edit or manipulate it. If you give them view and edit, then it means that they can be able to actually make changes to it, manipulate it, and they save it in the same file that you shared out with them. So when you come back the next time, your file might be different because someone else has changed it. So if you don't trust the other party with your data, it's better you give them view only rights. So once you're done with that, you give access and it will be added to the list. So you can add as many users as you want under here. So by default, all users are not given access, and we don't give access to everyone in the system. So for you have to go one by one by adding your users that you want to share with. So if you're done with that entire list, they will be added here in the list and you can confirm their access levels. So for now, I'll close. What it means now is that KP Training 4 can also log into the system and access the same data on their side. Okay, so away from this, you could also utilize these other options to see what happens with your data. So after this, we have the options menu, which gives you access to manipulate your data, your legend, your series, style, and the others, including parameters. So what I'll do for this is that when I click on data as an example, but you can navigate the other options as well to see what happens with the data. As an example, if I wanted to add column totals, just come to totals and add column totals. Also, you can add row totals. You can choose to hide empty rows if at all you don't want to display non-performing facilities or entities. So once you're done with this, you just click on update and then it will show you the changes. As you can see that right now we have the column totals and we have the row totals here as well, to make it easy for you to sum up the performances per facility or per data indicator, as you can see. Okay, so now that we are done with this, you can choose now to download as well. So we have a couple of layouts that you can choose to download. We have Excel, we have CSV, HTML, and the others. So whichever format you're comfortable with, you can use that. But what we recommend for big data is CSV. What CSV does is compress your data and separates it by a comma. So this data is much smaller as compared to any other format that we've tested with. So if you're to test, as an example, if you're to download an Excel out of this data, it will be much bigger compared to CSV, because Excel carries the format of your extract and brings it in the download, which makes it much bigger as compared to the comma separated values right here. So once you do CSV, okay, so the system is warning us about the changes that we've made and have not saved. So what I'll do is first cancel this, and as you can see on top of my name, I have performance, which is the name that I gave the extract, with edited, to show you that this data has been edited without saving. So what I'll do is come to file and then save. So now you can see that edited is going to disappear right here to show you that now my data is actually saved with the most recent changes. So what I can do now is download under CSV or with the CSV format or layout, and my data will be downloaded right here. So once I open it, it will open in Excel, and then I can do further manipulations to it. So I can delete the columns I don't need or anything that I don't want, and I can do further manipulations. So this is how you get your data from the tracker, and you can do further manipulations in any other tool that you're comfortable with. Away from this, if I go back to the system now, you can do anything else that you might want to do. So after sharing it or doing any other changes, you can choose to now add maybe other indicators as well. As an example, if I wanted to add, still I just click on data to add more indicators. If I wanted to maybe change the org units. I click on this again to add or remove the ones that I don't want. And the period, the same thing. So remember that this display can be manipulated by you dragging around the dimensions. Say if I wanted now org units to come back to this side, I just drag it to this side and bring back the period to the rows. And if I update now, facilities will disappear and I'll have the periods displayed, as you can see. So for you to save the changes, to show that this has been edited, but you have to make sure that you do this, you save the changes by coming to File and Save for the changes to be saved in the system. So for now, I think this is what we can stop with or stop at. And for the next session, we are going to be looking at extracting a line list using the other applications from the system. Please feel free to give us feedback on our portal about the other maybe areas that we might need to go deeper into for you to be supported. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us using the WhatsApp group or our contacts as shared on the portal and the other platforms. Thank you so much, and catch you again in the next one. Bye-bye.